Good afternoon, fellow viewers. Welcome back to Easy Mathematics. We thank God today is Friday. Just as we started last week with percentages, today we want to look at finding the percentage of a quantity. Finding the percentage of a quantity. Now, if you are being asked to find the percentage of a quantity, you are just going to multiply the given percentage times the quantity. So when you look at the first one, we have to find 5% of 500 Ghana cedis. So the percentage is 5% and the quantity is 500 Ghana cedis. So just multiply the 5% of this, and of also we know that it's multiplication. So this is going to give us 5 over 100 of, which is times 500. So we are finding the percentage of the quantity. That is, multiply the percentage by the quantity. So with this one, we can say that these two zeros will cancel out these two zeros. Now we are having 5 times 5, which is equal to 25. So 5% of 500 Ghana cedis is going to give us 25 Ghana cedis. So if you are calculating the percentage of a quantity, just multiply the percentage times the quantity. Then number 2 is saying that find 25% of 200. So this is the percentage, this is the quantity. Multiply the percentage by the quantity. So 25% can be written as 25 over 100 times 200. Every whole number we know that is over 1, so we can say this should be over 1. So we can say, because we are multiplying, we can cancel out. So we cancel vertically or diagonally. So we can say that these two zeros will knock out these two zeros. Now we are having 25 times 2. And 25 times 2 is going to give us 50. So 25% of 200 is 50. And that is how we find the percentage of a quantity. When you look at the third one too, we are having 66% of 66 whole number 2 over 3. Now to find the percentage of this quantity, what we are going to do is that we will change this into improper fraction. And changing this into improper fraction, multiply the 66 times 3. And 66 times 3 will give us 198. That 198, you add your numerator to it, which is 2, and it will give you 200. So this value or this fraction in improper fraction will give us 200 over 3. So that is the mixed fraction, the improper fraction for this. So we are to find the percentage of this. So you multiply this percentage times this. So we are going to say 66%, which is the same as 66 out of 100 times this. So you can see that the 66% is what we've written as this. And the 66 whole number, 2 over 3, is what we've written in, or we've converted it into improper fraction. Now try and see if you can cancel out to make the multiplication more easier. 2 zeros here, 2 zeros here. So we can say these 2 zeros will cancel out these 2 zeros. Looking at 3 and 66, we can use 3 to cancel out. So 3 will go into itself 1, and 3 will go into 66 22 times. So now we are having 22 times 2. And 22 times 2 is going to give us 44. So 66% of 66 whole number, 2 over 3, is going to give us 44. Good. Now let's move on to the fourth one. The fourth one is quite like a word problem, or it is in a word problem form. Just as what we've done, that is finding the quantity the percentage of a quantity, multiply the percent by the quantity. Here they've given it to us in a word problem form. It says that in an examination, 60% of the candidates failed. The number of candidates who passed was 500. Find the number that failed. So when you look at the question, it says that in an examination, 60% failed. So in terms of percentage, the number that failed in terms of percentage is 60%. Now, if in a class 60% have failed, then in terms of percentage, the number of students that passed will be 40%. Why? Because we are dealing with percentage, the total number is 100. So the number that passed is 40%. From the question, we were given that 60% failed. And in terms of percentage, those who passed are 400. Sorry, 500 from the question, 500. So if those who passed are 500 and 60% failed, for you to get the number of students that passed, we have to first find the total number of students in the class. And the total number of students is 100% in terms of percentage. So if 40 students passed, and the 40 students that passed, they are 500. The total number of students that took the examination will be 100. Why? Because in terms of percentage, the total number is going to be what? 100%. So if 40% pass, then 100% we don't know. So let's represent it with a variable. Let's say x. Now from here we do our cross multiplication, and we will say that the 40% will multiply x and the 100% will multiply 500. From here we are going to cancel this one by 40%. So 40% will cancel 40%. Then we'll also divide this one also by 40%. Now this percent will cancel the percent. This 0 will cancel this 0. We can say 2 into 4, 2 times. 2 into 50, 25 times. This same 2 can go into itself 1, and 2 will go into 100 50 times. So if you multiply 50 times 25, we are going to get 1,250. So the total number of students that took the examination are 1,250. Out of this 1,250, 500 of them passed. So with this one, if we want the number of students that failed, you can subtract 500 from this. Whatever that you get becomes the number of students that failed. Or you can choose to find 60% of this value. And if you find 60% of this value, whatever that you are going to get will be the same thing as subtracting. So if the total number are 1,250, if you subtract this value from it, whatever that you will get becomes the number of students that failed. And if you subtract 500 from 1,250, you are going to get 750 as your answer. So the number of students that failed the test is 750 candidates. Because from the question they said 60% of them failed. So if 60% failed, in terms of percentage, those who passed will be 40%. So we are saying that number that passed is 40%. And the 40% that passed, they are 500 in number. So we have to therefore find the total number of candidates that took the test. And to get the total number of candidates that took the test, in terms of percentage, it is 100%. Because we have been told that total percentage is 100. So if 40% passed and they are 500, then the 100% which is total shows the total number of students that took the test. So from here we do our cross multiplication, find the value of x, which is going to give us 1250. So the total students that took the test, or the total candidates, are 1250. And out of this 1250, they are saying that 500 of them passed and the rest failed. So for you to get the number that failed, we are going to subtract 500 from 1250, which is going to give us 750 or 750. So therefore, the number of students that failed are 750. The alternate method is that you can also find 60%, because we were told that 60% of the candidates failed. So if you don't want to subtract, if you find 60% of 1250, you end up getting 750. And that is that for that question. When you come to the fifth one, the fifth one says that Mr. Akrobeto rented out his house for 2,400 Ghana cedis for 1 year. During the year, he paid 15% of the rent as income tax. He also paid 25% of the rent as property tax and spent 200 Ghana cedis on repairs. Calculate Mr. Akrobeto's total expenses. The next one, the remainder of the rent after his expenses. Now, when you take the question again, it says that Mr. Akrobeto rented the house for 2,400. So the amount rent, or the rent amount is 2,400. That's the rented amount. During the year, he paid 15% of the rent as income tax. So we have to find amount on income tax. And the amount on income tax is 15% of the rent, which is finding the percentage of a quantity. The percentage of the quantity, you just multiply the amount by the percentage. So here to get the amount on income tax, we are going to calculate 15% of the rent. What is the rent? 2,400. So 15% of 2,400. So let's do the calculation. You have 15 over 100 times 2,400. Let's do the cancellation. The 2 zeros here will cancel the 2 zeros. Now we are having 15 times 24. So let's multiply 15 times 24 and see. 15 times 24. 5 times 4 is 0, 2. This will give us 60. 2 times 5 is 10. Remember 1. This will give us 30. So 360. So the amount spent on income tax is 360 Ghana cedis. So this is the amount spent on income tax. When you continue the reading, it says that he also paid 25% of the rent. 25% of the rent as property rate. So property tax. So we are also going to find the amount spent on property tax, and that one is 25% of the rent, 2,400. So we are going to multiply 25%, which is 25 over 100, times 2,400. These two zeros will cancel these two zeros. Then now we are having 25 times 24. So if you multiply 25 times 24, what are we going to get? Let's see. 25 times 24. 5, 4 is 20. Remember 2. 4, 2, 8 is going to give us 10. 2, 5, 10. Remember 1. 2, 2, 4 is going to give us 50. So 0, 0, 6. So the amount spent on income tax is 600 Ghana cedis. So we are doing all this because he said we should calculate Acrobatus' total expenses. And the expenses out of the year or during the year, the expenses include income tax, property tax, and repairs. But on the income tax, he's paid 15% of the rent. And on property tax, he paid 25% of the rent. So you are going to find 25% of the rent, which is 360 Ghana cedis. And when it comes to the property tax, he spent 25% of the rent, and which is what? 600 Ghana cedis. And spent 200 Ghana cedis on repairs. So the I that we have been asked to calculate is total expenses. We are going to put the amount on income tax, which is 360, plus property tax, which is 600, plus the amount that he spent on repairs, which is 200 Ghana cedis. So put all this together, and that will give you his total expenses. So let's group them into two this way and put them together. 360 plus 600 will give us 960 plus 200. 200 plus 960 is going to give us 1160. So this is the expense on income tax, expense on property tax, expense on repairs from the question. And the first one says that calculate Mr. Acrobatus' total expenses. That is, put all the expenses together. So we can say, therefore, his total expenses is equal to 1,000 Ghana cedis, 160. 1,160 Ghana cedis. That is his total expenses. When you come to the second question, it says that calculate the remainder of the rent after his expenses. The rent is 2,400. So after his expenses, which is 1,160 Ghana cedis, what is he now having after spending 1,160? And therefore, for that one, we are just going to subtract the expense from the rent. So we are going to say rent minus expenses. And what is the rent? 2,400 minus expenses, 1,160. So let's do the subtraction and see. This can be written as 2400 1160. So let's do the subtraction and see. This will give us 0, not possible. So we borrow 3. This will give us 4. Now this is 3 minus 1 will give us 2. 2 minus 1 will give us 1. So therefore he has 1,240 after his expenses. So when you look at this word problem, they fixed this one here. By just identifying them, we'll be able to find or solve the given problem. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for staying tuned. And we apologize if in case we've made it quite comprehensive. We hope we are going to understand and get the concept from today's presentation. See you, God willing, next week as we look at the next one in percentages. God bless you. See you next week. Bye-bye.